Have you ever walked into a room, a place filled with the familiar chatter of family or the polite hum of a community gathering, only to feel a subtle shift in the air? It's a feeling that's hard to name but impossible to ignore. Perhaps your story is cut short, your opinion gently but firmly bypassed, or your presence acknowledged with a kindness that feels more like a pat on the head than a handshake between equals. It's the quiet sting of being underestimated, the hollow echo of being dismissed. If you've ever felt that your age, which should be a crown of wisdom, has instead become a cloak of invisibility, then this message is not just for you. It is your guide back to the center of your own life. The world often gets it wrong about respect. It's not something that can be demanded with a raised voice or begged for with a weakened spirit. It is not a gift bestowed upon you by others out of pity or obligation. True, unshakable respect is an echo. It is the reflection of the dignity you hold for yourself, projected outward so clearly and so consistently that others have no choice but to mirror it back to you. It's not about fighting for your place. It's about so thoroughly occupying the space you've earned that the question of your value is never even raised. The good news, the profound and life-altering truth, is that this power is entirely within your control. It doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to become more fully the person you have always been, stripped of the need for external approval. Over the next few minutes, we are going to embark on a journey through 5 of the most potent, yet often overlooked, principles of self-possession. These aren't aggressive tactics or hollow platitudes. They are deep, intentional shifts in behavior and mindset that will fundamentally alter how the world perceives and interacts with you. We will explore how to build fences of self-worth, how to let your words carry the weight of your experience, and how to wield silence as your most formidable shield. Prepare to leave behind the frustration of being ignored. Prepare to transform the kindness that was mistaken for weakness into a quiet, unassailable strength. This is your masterclass in commanding the respect you not only deserve, but have earned through a lifetime of experience. Let's begin this transformation together. The first pillar: erecting boundaries without apology. One of the most immediate and transformative acts of self-respect is the establishment of clear, personal boundaries, erected without a single ounce of guilt or a syllable of apology. Think of boundaries not as walls designed to push people away, but as the lovingly tended fence around the garden of your own well-being. This fence protects your most precious resources, your time, your emotional energy, and your inner peace. When you demonstrate that you are the diligent guardian of this personal space, others learn to approach it with the reverence it deserves. There is an undeniable power in the quiet confidence of a simple "no thank you" or "I'm afraid that doesn't work for me." These phrases, delivered with a calm and steady voice, carry far more weight than a shouting match or a 10-point dissertation on why you feel the way you do. You are not required to justify your need for rest, for solitude, or for saying no to a commitment that would drain you. A firm, respectful refusal is a complete statement in itself, signaling that you take your own needs seriously, which in turn teaches others to do the same. For many, particularly those who have spent a lifetime as caregivers, providers, and peacekeepers, this can feel like a radical act. Society often conditions us, especially as we age, to be agreeable, to go along, to get along, to smooth over friction even at our own expense. But let's be perfectly clear. Kindness and being a pushover are not the same thing. You can be a deeply compassionate and gracious person while simultaneously being firm in your resolve. You can offer empathy without sacrificing your core values on the altar of someone else's comfort. If this idea feels both liberating and a little daunting, I want you to know you're not alone. It's a skill many of us have to learn later in life. If you're ready to start building this foundational pillar of self-respect, take a moment to comment the number 1 below. It's a small, simple declaration that you're committed to honoring your own peace. Consider the story of Jim, a 74-year-old retiree from a quiet suburb in Ohio. Jim was the heart of his local community center, a man whose generosity was as reliable as the sunrise. But over time, that reliability began to curdle into expectation. People didn't ask if he could help, they assumed he would. Jim can set up the chairs. Jim will run the bake sale. Jim will stay late to clean up. And Jim, not wanting to appear unhelpful or cantankerous, would always sigh, smile, and say yes, even as the exhaustion settled deeper into his bones. He felt his goodwill being mined like a resource, and a quiet resentment began to build, tarnishing the very joy he once found in serving his community. One Tuesday, he was asked to lead an extra workshop on a day he had set aside for his own hobbies. The old Jim would have immediately agreed, but this time something had shifted within him. He took a breath, looked the organizer in the eye, and said with a polite but unwavering tone, "I've contributed a great deal this week, and I need to save today for myself to rest." That was all. There was no lengthy excuse about a doctor's appointment, no apology for his selfishness. He simply stated his truth. The organizer blinked, momentarily surprised, and then nodded. "Of course, Jim, you've earned it. We'll find someone else." To Jim's astonishment, the sky did not fall. No one was angry. In fact, a profound change occurred. Witnessing Jim honor his own limits gave others permission to do the same. A few other volunteers, who had also been feeling overwhelmed, started to speak up, offering to share the load more equitably. Jim's single, courageous act of setting a boundary didn't just earn him respect. It created a healthier, more respectful environment for everyone. This is the ripple effect. When you respect your own time, others learn its value. Consistency is your greatest tool. You are, in essence, training the people in your life on how to treat you, not through anger or conflict, but through the calm, steady repetition of your own self-worth. If a family member constantly interrupts you, you can hold up a hand and say, "Please let me finish my thought." If a conversation veers into disrespect, you have every right to say, "I'm not going to participate in this conversation," and gracefully exit. You owe no one an explanation for protecting your peace. It is not rudeness. It is the accumulated wisdom of a life fully lived. The second pillar, speaking with purpose, not to please. As we navigate the rich and complex tapestry of our later years, one of the most powerful internal shifts we can make is learning to speak with purpose rather than speaking merely to please. The distinction is subtle, yet it fundamentally alters the very gravity of your presence. When your words emanate from a place of grounded, authentic conviction, rather than a nervous need for validation, people don't just hear you, they listen. They lean in. They take your contributions seriously. All too often, individuals fall into the habit of softening every statement, peppering their speech with apologies, or watering down their opinions to avoid the slightest hint of disagreement. They tiptoe through conversations, terrified that a bold assertion might lead to judgment or conflict. But here is the unvarnished truth. People do not respect ambiguity. They do not respect hesitation. They respect clarity. You have walked this earth for 7, 8, or even 9 decades. You have weathered storms that would break younger generations. You have raised families, navigated complex careers, witnessed history unfold, and learned profound lessons from both your triumphs and your failures. That reservoir of wisdom is not just a personal treasure. It is a vital resource that deserves to be shared with conviction. You do not need to be the loudest voice in the room, but your voice should be the one that is sure of itself. When you speak from that core of lived experience, people can feel its undeniable truth. Have you ever found yourself biting your tongue in a family discussion just to keep the peace? Share a brief thought about that experience in the comments. Your story might just empower someone else to find their voice. Let's imagine a woman named Patricia, a 76-year-old grandmother from Florida, a matriarch who had spent a lifetime acting as the family's emotional shock absorber. At holiday dinners, she was the master of changing the subject, of nodding along to opinions she found misguided, all in the service of maintaining a fragile harmony. But this constant self-censorship came at a cost. Inside, she felt increasingly invisible, as if her true self had been packed away in an attic. One evening, during a heated discussion about her grandson's future, her daughter made a decision Patricia felt was deeply unwise. The old Patricia would have remained silent, her disagreement a tight knot in her stomach. But this time, fueled by a deep love for her grandson and a newfound respect for her own intuition, she waited for a pause in the conversation. Then, calmly and without a trace of accusation, she said, "I love you all dearly, and I know you mean well, but I cannot pretend that I am okay with this decision. I need to be honest, even if it makes this moment uncomfortable, because I believe there is a better way." She didn't shout, she didn't shame, she simply laid her truth on the table like a polished stone. The room fell silent. Her daughter, initially defensive, found herself disarmed by her mother's sincerity. While they didn't immediately agree, the entire dynamic of their communication shifted. From that day forward, they listened to Patricia not as a passive observer, but as a source of genuine wisdom. This is the power you hold. The key is to take a breath before you speak and ask yourself a simple question. Am I saying this to be truly understood, or am I saying this just to be liked? If the answer is the latter, it may be a moment for reflective silence. You are no longer auditioning for a role in someone else's play. You are here to share the truth that matters, with the quiet confidence and inherent dignity you have more than earned. When you speak with this level of purpose, people notice. They remember your words. More importantly, they remember how you made them feel. Respected, challenged, and perhaps even inspired by the rare and potent force of truth spoken without aggression. The third pillar, the silent language of pride in presence. Long before a single word is exchanged, a conversation has already begun. It is a silent dialogue, communicated through the universal language of posture, appearance, and physical presence. This is one of the most immediate and visceral ways we signal our self-respect, and it is a signal that others decode in an instant. When you enter a space carrying yourself with an air of quiet dignity, it sends an unambiguous message. This is a person who values themselves, and you should too. It's an assertion of worth that requires no verbal defense. Let's begin with the very frame of your body, your posture. Standing tall, even if your movements are slower than they once were, projects an image of confidence and inner calm. When you allow your shoulders to slump, when you shuffle your feet, or consistently avert your gaze, you are non-verbally communicating uncertainty or withdrawal. This can be misinterpreted by others as an invitation for them to take the lead, or worse, to dismiss you. But when you make the conscious choice to pull your shoulders back, to lift your chin, and to meet the world with a steady, direct gaze, even if it's accompanied by a soft smile, you fundamentally change the energetic dynamic of every interaction. You don't need to be intimidating or aggressive, you simply need to be grounded in your own physical space. This principle extends to your personal appearance. This has nothing to do with chasing youth or spending a fortune on designer clothes. In fact, the opposite is often true. Authenticity is far more respected than artifice. However, taking the time to present yourself in a clean, well-groomed, and put-together manner is a powerful act of self-valuation. Whether it's a neat haircut, a freshly pressed shirt, or shoes that are clean and in good repair, these seemingly small details accumulate to send a potent, silent signal. They say, "I am worth the effort." If you found this exploration of presence to be valuable so far and you're still with me, please take a second to hit that like button. It truly helps our channel reach more people who might benefit from this message and lets us know we're on the right track. Your support is immensely appreciated. Consider Leonard, an 82-year-old man from Chicago who was a regular at his neighborhood coffee shop. Leonard was not a man of loud pronouncements or flashy gestures, yet whenever he entered, a subtle hush would fall over the usual morning chaos. Young professionals would instinctively stop leaning on the counter. People would open the door for him. It wasn't because he demanded this deference, it was because he radiated it. Every day, he wore a simple but crisp button-up shirt, clean slacks, and carried himself with a kind but unshakable steadiness. He moved with intention, not haste. He didn't try to impress anyone, he simply showed up, with care for himself, and that care was contagious. People treated him with a level of reverence because his very presence suggested he was worthy of it. Your facial expression is also a critical part of this silent language. A perpetually anxious or scowling face can, without a word, invite dismissal or create distance. You don't need to wear a forced, artificial smile. Instead, aim for a relaxed, pleasant neutrality. A calm and approachable expression communicates that you are in control of your emotional state, that you are not easily flustered, and that you are someone to be engaged with on a level of mutual respect. These choices, your posture, your grooming, your expression, may seem minor in isolation, but together they weave a powerful tapestry of self-regard. This isn't about vanity. It is about the external manifestation of an internal state. Once you begin to walk in this energy daily, you create a quiet authority that people naturally and instinctively respond to. So the next time you prepare to face the day, stand before a mirror not to criticize the map of years on your face, but to affirm the strength that drew it. Hold your head high, straighten your spine, and walk into every room knowing your presence has already spoken volumes. The fourth pillar, the freedom of releasing the need to explain. There is a profound and liberating moment that arrives in a well-lived life, a point where you realize a fundamental truth. You do not owe everyone an explanation. And yet, so many of us, especially in our later years, find ourselves caught in a draining cycle of over-explaining our choices, apologizing for our beliefs, and desperately trying to coax others into agreement. This habit, though often rooted in a desire for harmony, rarely leads to respect. Instead, it subtly signals that our own judgment is up for debate. The moment you release the compulsion to justify your existence, you begin to command the quiet, powerful respect that is born of certainty. This is not a call for coldness or dismissiveness. It is about understanding the crucial difference between healthy communication and futile justification. Sharing your reasoning with someone who is genuinely open and listening is a beautiful act of connection. But repeating yourself ad nauseum to people who have already made up their minds, or who are questioning you not out of curiosity, but out of a desire to control you, is not connection. It is an act of self-abandonment. It tells the other person that their opinion of your life holds more weight than your own. Trying to explain yourself to everyone you meet is like trying to fill a leaky bucket. It's an exhausting and ultimately pointless endeavor that waters down your authority. Have you ever felt trapped in a loop of having to justify a personal decision to someone who just wouldn't let it go? How did that make you feel? Sharing your experience in the comments can be incredibly validating for others who have been there too. Let's create a space of mutual understanding. Let me tell you about Irene, a 79-year-old woman from Austin, Texas. After her beloved husband passed away, she made the difficult decision to sell the sprawling family home they had shared for 40 years and move into a small, manageable apartment closer to her sister. Her adult children, well-meaning, were aghast. "But Mom, what about all the memories?" they'd implore. "Why not just stay put? We can help." At first, Irene found herself constantly on the defensive, trying to explain her logic. "It's just too much house for me to take care of now," she'd say. "I get lonely here by myself. I need to be near June." But the more she explained, the less they seemed to hear her. Her reasons were met with counterarguments, her feelings with their own anxieties. Then one day, after another draining phone call, she simply stopped. The next time her son brought it up, she listened patiently, and when he was finished, she said with a calm finality, "I know this is hard for you to understand, and I appreciate your love and concern, but I am doing what feels right for me." She left it at that. There was no further justification, no emotional pleading, and for the first time, a real shift occurred. They backed off. It wasn't because they had a sudden epiphany and agreed with her choice, it was because they sensed her resolve. She was no longer asking for their permission, she was standing firmly in her own decision. When you stop pouring your precious energy into explaining yourself to those who are determined not to understand, you reclaim that energy for yourself. You dramatically reduce conflict and quietly demonstrate that you are not seeking their validation. That shift in posture is incredibly powerful. It doesn't require drama or confrontation, it simply requires consistency. The next time someone questions your choices, whether it's about your finances, your social life, or your daily routine, ask yourself this critical question. Does this person genuinely need to understand this for a practical reason, or do I just feel an obligation to make them approve of me? If it's the latter, you have the power to offer a gentle but firm closing. A simple smile and the words, "It's just what I've chosen to do," can be enough. You are not on this earth to convince a jury of your peers. You are here to live in alignment with the truth you have spent a lifetime discovering. When you begin to do that unapologetically, people may not always agree with you, but their respect for you will deepen immeasurably. The final pillar: wielding silence as your ultimate defense. There exists a form of strength that makes no sound. It doesn't rise from the fire of a shouted rebuttal, the desperate scramble to defend against an insult, or the exhausting effort to prove your worth to someone who has already chosen not to see it. This profound strength is born of restraint. It is the conscious, deliberate choice of silence, not as a sign of weakness or defeat, but as a clear declaration that you have outgrown the need to waste your energy on disrespect. As someone who has journeyed beyond 70 years, you have unequivocally earned the right to walk away from a battle that is beneath you, without offering a single word of explanation. It is a deeply ingrained human instinct to defend ourselves when we feel attacked. When someone speaks down to you, questions your cognitive abilities, or dismisses your decades of experience with a condescending remark, the immediate impulse is to push back, to correct the record, to fight for your honor. But what most people fail to realize is that an emotional reaction is often the very thing the disrespectful person is seeking. It's a sign that they've gotten under your skin, that they have a measure of control over your emotional state. When you refuse to give them that reaction, when you remain calm, when you say nothing, when you decline to meet them on their low ground, you seize all the power in the interaction. Your silence becomes a mirror, forcing them to confront the ugliness of their own behavior without the distraction of an argument. It can speak with a volume that no comeback ever could. Think of silence as your most elegant and impenetrable armor. It shields you from being dragged into petty, soul-draining conflicts. It preserves your inner peace, a commodity that becomes ever more precious with time. In many situations, it sends a clear and chilling message. I have already won this exchange because I do not need to participate to validate my own worth. If you've made it this far, I want to thank you for your time and attention. These concepts are deep, and your willingness to explore them is a testament to your commitment to growth. If this final pillar resonates with you, please comment the number 5 below to let me know. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and turning on notifications so you don't miss our future discussions. Your support is what allows us to continue this important work. Let's look at the example of Frank, an 80-year-old man at a family barbecue in his son's backyard in California. His young nephew, trying to be funny, made a crass joke about old folks being completely out of touch with technology and the modern world. A few people chuckled uncomfortably, others quickly looked away. Frank, who was the clear target of the jibe, did not flinch. He didn't offer a weak, placating laugh, nor did he launch into a defense of his generation. He simply held his nephew's gaze for a brief, neutral moment, then turned to his grandniece and, with a gentle smile, began a completely new conversation about the book she was reading. The effect was instantaneous and profound. The atmosphere shifted. The nephew's joke hung in the air, exposed for the clumsy, disrespectful remark it was. Later that afternoon, the same nephew quietly approached him. "Uncle Frank," he said, looking at the ground, "I'm sorry. What I said earlier was out of line." Why the apology? Because Frank's powerful, dignified silence forced the young man to sit with his own words. That moment of masterful self-restraint earned more genuine respect than any angry lecture ever could have. Now, choosing silence does not mean becoming a doormat. It means developing the wisdom to know which words are worthy of your breath and which deserve none at all. If someone repeatedly crosses a line, you can still hold your boundary with quiet firmness. That is not a topic I am willing to discuss. And then let the silence do the rest of the work. You don't need to argue, debate, or convert anyone to your point of view. The next time you feel insulted or dismissed, resist the powerful urge to react in the heat of the moment. Pause, breathe, say nothing. More often than not, you will find that your silence delivered the message far more effectively than a speech ever could. In your 70s, 80s, and beyond, you have learned that your peace is more valuable than being right. You know that your presence needs no defense, and you understand that walking away from disrespect doesn't prove you are small. It proves just how magnificently large you have become. Final thoughts: the architecture of inner dignity. As we draw our conversation to a close, having explored these 5 foundational pillars of respect, I invite you to take a quiet moment for yourself. Reflect on these principles not as a checklist of tasks, but as an integrated system for living with profound self-possession. Which of these pillars are already a sturdy part of your life's architecture, and which ones might you begin reinforcing today? The ultimate truth we have uncovered is that respect is not an external commodity you acquire. It is an internal state of being that you cultivate. It is something you generate from the inside out, through the deliberate and consistent way you carry yourself, the purpose with which you speak, and the way you respond, or choose not to respond, to the world around you. Each of these steps, setting boundaries, speaking with purpose, presenting yourself with pride, refusing to over-explain, and choosing silence over arguments, interlocks to form an unshakable foundation of dignity. It is a quiet strength that resonates far more powerfully than any loud demand ever could. You are past the point of needing to prove your worth. You have lived it. You have earned every line on your face, every silver strand of hair, and every lesson etched into your soul. Those who possess the wisdom to see this will treat you accordingly. And those who do not, they are simply not worth the expenditure of your precious time or your finite emotional energy.
What I hope you carry with you from our time together is this. Respect begins the very moment you stop looking for it outside of yourself. It ignites when you cease seeking approval and start honoring your own truth. It flourishes when you choose your inner peace over a hollow performance. The way people treat you is, so often, a direct mirror of the way you treat yourself. And therein lies the incredible beauty of this journey. You are and always have been in control. Whether you are in the quiet of your own home, in a bustling family gathering, or moving through a world that does not always value age as it should, you get to decide how you show up. Every single time you choose to walk with confidence, speak with clarity, and fiercely guard your energy, you send a silent, powerful message to the universe. I may be older, but I am not to be overlooked. I am here, and I am worthy. So, I ask you now, what stood out to you the most? Which of these 5 pillars felt the most resonant, the most challenging, or the most empowering? Perhaps it's the idea of finally saying no without the burden of guilt. Perhaps it's the resolution to stand a little taller. Or maybe it's the liberating thought of meeting a foolish comment with nothing but dignified silence. Whatever it is, know that you have everything you need to begin. Not because you are trying to become someone else, but because you are finally embracing the magnificent person you have spent a lifetime becoming. Thank you for joining us on this journey today. We would be honored to hear from you. Please leave a comment below and share one insight you gained today and how you might begin to apply it in your own life. Your wisdom and your stories are invaluable to this community. Reading your reflections gives us immense motivation and encouragement. If you found this video helpful and inspiring, please show your support by clicking the like and subscribe buttons and share it with someone who might need to hear this message. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in our next video.